I gotta talk into it, bro.
What do you usually do to mics? Talk away from it.
Well, I should just use my Logitech mic, man.
Try this one. How's this one? How's this one sound?
Horrible. That's
Terrible.
terrible.
We're back, buddy.
About time.
Yeah, it's been a while. Buddy, a lot of changes, man. You had your baby. I've been trying to get you on this mic. I don't even get to see you anymore, so I have to resort to talking to you over Skype and the mic.
No, man, you were like here last week. It's
I know once. I get upset. I miss you, buddy.
It was a nice visit, and we all enjoyed it.
It was a nice visit. I got to see little Nicholas.
There you go. Yeah, new kid in the family. His training program starts next week.
Yeah,
so.
he can squat. When's he squatting already? What are you pulling him under?
Squat's better than me. There's nothing better. If you look at baby squats, they have the perfect squat. He obviously can't stand yet. He's a week. He's 3 weeks old. But
bro, never call your son weak, man.
No, I'm saying he's 3 weeks, not weak. He's pretty. We took him to the doctor. The doctor said he's strong, so I'm going with that.
Yeah, he's the strongest kid around.
There you go.
That's it.
But
would you want him to, again, would you rather him be an athlete or would you rather him do something with school?
Well, it depends. If he has the genetics for it. You can make $20 million being an athlete if you got the genetics. But I'd like him to be good in school. That's key.
Yeah. But do you see him being an athlete? Would you be all right with that? You're into that kind of...
I think he should go into sports. I think it's very important that kids go into sports and training because it builds self-confidence, teamwork, social skills, all those soft skills. So even if he's not going to make $1 million as a pro athlete, he's going to get all those skills that being an athlete, training and being in sports gives you. It carries over to every aspect of your life. So absolutely, Joe.
What about fighting? You into fighting for him?
I would think martial arts and combat sports to train. Absolutely. It gives you that confidence, and it teaches you to how to handle your anger. It teaches you that combat sports are not something to just go and beat up some idiot on the streets. They're an actual sport with skill that you do in the ring and you do in training in a controlled environment. And it teaches you to respect the power of a punch, the power of a kick, the power of a grapple. It teaches you to respect the combat. And you're not.
And I actually think that would actually stop people from fighting so much. If people actually went into a gym and trained and actually threw a punch or a kick or something, they'd actually realize that it's harder to fight than people think. And I think it would actually stop people being like, hey, man, I can't throw a punch if my life depended on it. Do you know how many big guys I brought into the gym and like, okay, let's hold pads and stuff? They're terrible. They can't even throw it. I was like, okay, you might be bigger, you might be stronger, but I mean, it really humbles people, man. I think so. Everyone should kind of get in there.
Absolutely. It's all about what you do with it. If you go in there with a violent mindset and I just want to learn to kick somebody's ass and use it on the street, you're going to use it. But if you go in there with the proper mindset and you respect it as a sport, as a learning thing, and as something to help you, then it's going to be good for you. I mean, it takes a lot of people off the streets. It actually calms people down. I mean, you used to be crazy, and look what it did for your life.
Yeah, it helped. I think it's just in general, if everybody did it a little bit, they'd be a little bit happier. They would understand. They would lose their aggression, their anger. I don't know, man. I'm preaching.
Well, honestly, look at we talk a lot about bullying, and I think one of the big things that'll help, and obviously there's a lot of factors, but one of the big things that help is a kid who goes out there and works on his self-confidence by learning how to defend themselves, learning how to be confident, and that'll help them bullying, not because they're going to beat up the bully, but the self-confidence that you get from learning how to defend yourself and learning the power of your own body and your own mind.
Even me, like growing up, everyone was like, oh my God, Joe did Taekwondo. He's got to be good. So it actually kept me out of fights, and it kept me, feeling good too. So obviously, because it's like people think you're cool that you do martial arts. So it helped as a kid. It kept me actually out of fights, even though, you can use it the wrong way. But
I was the opposite. I was a little wimp as a kid. I was scared of everything. And then I went into train with you guys in Thai years ago. And actually,
you just want to fight everybody after?
Yeah. I was just a beast on the streets. But no, but it gave me some confidence and gave me the ability to stand up for myself as a kid. And as a kid who goes through puberty and not knows anything about themselves, it gave me some self-worth out there, or else you never know. You have to be able to stand up for yourself in life.
Well, speaking of fights, did you watch that UFC, man? We were talking about how brutal that Russian versus Irish fights were. That was crazy. That video you sent me was nuts.
Yeah, at first I'd like to say I called Khabib to win.
You did.
I did.
Man, I knew. I always told people, if I had to bet my house on it, I'm going Khabib. But I felt part of me is like I had to defend the striker in the situation, because to me it wasn't Russia versus Ireland. It was striking versus wrestling, and I had to kind of defend striking.
I'll defend a striker all day, Joe. I'll defend a striker all day, but I just think Conor is so overhyped. And credit to him, he's went out there and made a name for himself, and he went out there and fought Floyd. He went out these guys, but I just think he's overhyped. He caught Aldo. Aldo was on a downswing. As you can see, he's never been the same. He's been out of it for 2 years. Mayweather picked him apart and let him run gave him a few rounds just to make it look a little competitive. But come on, that was a joke. And then Khabib is just an animal. So, I mean, for Conor for making everybody think that he's a great striker, but, I mean, he's fine. But Khabib's just on another level. The guy hasn't lost. He's ridiculous.
Yeah. Man, I didn't think Conor approached it properly, too. We saw him go forward. It's like, if you're fighting, at one point he threw a flying knee. Like, when you're fighting a wrestler, there's no flying knees. You got to draw him in a little bit. I heard his corner talking about, draw him in a little bit. There's no reason for you to bring forward pressure right off the start like that. Build him in, build in the feints. So I think he could approach the stand-up a little bit better. He got too confident with his forward pressure, and I thought he thinks his left straight was going to do more damage than it did. But, I mean, I think he could have done a little bit better from striking, strategy anyways.
I thought if he used that jab as a setup a little more, he could have confused Khabib.
Well, good jabs, anything, man. Like, good jabs, good feints, not walking backwards, pulling him in, using some more of his distance deception. We know where you think his leg's there, but you pull it quickly and counter off of it. There's a few things he could have done. I mean, easier said than done, but I didn't feel like he could have done a little bit better on his feet, and too cocky, obviously. That's his style, but
Khabib's an animal, bro. Khabib's an animal. Let's talk about what happened after the fight.
Yeah, I know. That was crazy. The video you sent me, we'll recap it, but it was basically Irish fans cheering and then these Russians going in like a circle to defend each other. And even Russians were coming from like outside to join the circle. It was like a literally old school war movie.
Yeah, and my thing is, and he saw one guy who got dummied at the drunk guy. And like, I don't know, I wonder if that guy's all right. He was just laid in the waist. And you see these guys and they just want to fight after the UFC fight. You could die from a punch. This is ridiculous. What are you fighting for? You're not going to be paid. Like, you're drunk. Like, and first of all, who do you know who you're fighting against? It could be anybody. Second of all, why? Like, you're going to jail. You're getting hurt. You could die from a punch. Literally, forget about the punch. You fall back on concrete, split your head open. Like, it's ridiculous. For what? Dummies.
Yeah. But do you think it was the UFC's fault for kind of building this nation hype, and Conor going really low against the Russian, man? He threw some father jokes, country jokes.
I have a couple of thoughts on it. I'm all about sports entertainment. I'm all about Conor winning the fight. I'm a wrestling fan. I think you have to entertain, especially with combat sports. There's really been a narrative where that's always been these guys have to have personal issues. That's what gets people into it. That's what makes money. Conor knows that. He's great at building it. Chael saw him before him. They all follow the pro wrestling model. The problem is Conor went too far. He came over. He threw a dolly on a bus with women. He got arrested. Rose is traumatized by that. Some of the guys are traumatized by that. So Ray Borg got injured. He went after Khabib. And then he's talking about his religion. He's talking about his father. And there's some guys you don't mess with. I don't care who you're building a fight. Khabib's one of those guys I'm not going to mess with those guys. I mean, we had some training partners you wouldn't mess with. Enzo comes to mind. It's there's certain things you can talk about. And you know what? If I'm Conor and I'm building a fight, maybe talk to his camp a little bit before. Say, this is what we're going to do if you really want to build some money. Or if you don't want to tell him, there's a line that you can't cross to build the fight. He crossed the line. Khabib told him what he was going to do after. His other, what's that guy? Dylan, whatever his name is, Dylan Day. He said it before. The guys came after him. I mean, it is what it is. Both guys were in the wrong for what they've done. But what made me laugh is everybody afterwards like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing for the sport. Relax. You all loved it.
Yeah, everybody loved it. I've never seen more attention on my Instagram stories than ever. Every other person posting,
this is going to double the
fly
amount.
like an eagle. It's going to make more money. If they have a rematch, it's just going to increase the payday, the amount of pay-per-views. If anything, Dana White should be laughing.
Yeah. Well, let's get this straight. This UFC, and I'm not going to talk about MMA in general, but kind of is, but UFC to begin with has become pro wrestling, like a legitimate pro wrestling. Outside the ring, it's all the build-up storylines, the issues inside the ring. You have the actual fights, and I mean, it sells. People watch it. Well, I mean, people want to get entertained. Like, why not?
But that's why, you know, when you talk about Conor over some of like the Demetrius Johnsons who get no attention, man, you got to build yourself. I mean, I don't think it's totally wrong. I think there's trash talking everywhere, man. I think you need a little bit of trash talk. And especially me going back from my career now into like the TV side of things, I look at a lot of fighters, and if they just had that little bit of that confidence, it doesn't even have to be trash talking. There needs to be a little bit more confidence. There's only those few who can be like Conor, but being confident, calling someone out, it's not a bad thing to call someone out. Like if I'm ranked number 10 and I call all the 9 people ahead of me, that's not a bad thing. Fighters got to stop thinking it's a bad thing. And it drives me nuts. If you're going to give someone an opportunity to call someone out, you got to have those answers, not whoever the UFC wants. And sometimes trash talk, sometimes having those names, guys are scared to kind of bring that confidence into their talk, which I think now looking back on is a huge part. I wish I looked back and I had a little bit more. I was obviously confident and we called out number 1 from day one, but having those, seeing people now and just not having that confidence in themselves and their careers, it drives me nuts.
Who used to tell you to call out more people, Joe?
Yeah, you were the one for sure, but you were on the outside. And for me being difficult because I'd always want to respect my opponent. But honestly, that little bit of, you know, calling them out, it's respectful. Like if you get called out from someone, that means you're ahead of them. They want you. You have something that they want. So at the end of the day, I don't see why people are looking at it as a bad thing.
The biggest respect is both you guys making as much money as possible.
And I mean, fighting your best in there. Both you guys fighting and leaving it out there.
What was the most requested? What was the most requested fight? And to this day would destroy box office records in Glory history. Joseph Valtellini, Bazooka Joe versus Nikki Holskin, because
Nikki brought it too. Yeah, that tension.
You guys had that heat. You guys had the history, the greatest fight in Glory history, and then you had the heat, the back and forth. You know what it was?
People
was
still want it. They still ask every day about it.
Of course, because you built it up.
You built the hype.
And I'll talk about guys. You know what? Rico's one of the he's one of the best fighters in Glory history. He's an unbelievable fighter. But to me personally, he doesn't build them up. He's boring. And you know what? You might have a lot of people have a different opinion, but I don't think he sells anything. You know what? A great fighter, but he doesn't do it for me personally.
Well, you got someone like, and he's fighting in Lyon, but Cedric Doumbé, he'll come in there. He got into Nikki's head. He got into Grunhardt's head. You know, he was using hashtags, end of Nikki, pray for Myrtle. Like, he's really good at it. But at the end, once you know him, though, you know it's just part of the game, right? Which I do respect that as well.
Yeah, and it has to be. I mean, Schilling used to be good at that.
Yeah, no, he was good. He got in your head with confidence and like the mean mugging, you know, which it worked.
Simon does it, but I think Simon's serious.
Yeah, Simon fights with emotion, man. He takes that stuff serious. Yeah,
he gets angry.
Yeah. No, he fights with a lot of emotion. But the guys like Conor, he doesn't fight with emotion though. That's the crazy thing. I think he fights with confidence, and that's it. But he doesn't fight emotionally.
No, and they do it to get in your head. Like the Diaz brothers, perfect at that. They would get in your head. I think those guys are actually serious because they're nuts. Those guys wouldn't fight in the street, but they would get in your head, and they knew that's how it worked. And it worked so many times. They beat you before you step in the ring because they get you angry, and you know it better than anyone. If you fight and you're angry, you're toast.
Yeah. No. Well, we know better now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But what's that? Lifting now?
Lifting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I posted that first video about punching power in the weight room. I was nervous, man, because I didn't really talk to you beforehand. I just kind of went with it randomly.
You're looking big in that, Joe.
I was trying. I actually leaned out, man. That's what's crazy. I'm actually leaning out. I lost 10 pounds. I guess just the definition makes me look bigger, but I lost 10 pounds, man.
Wide angle lens. I don't know. You look big.
And before I had a little pump, so it made me look bigger. Maybe the sweat.
Yeah,
with the pump
oil
and the
up
sweat,
a little bit before.
Yeah.
There's a few push-ups before the thing.
But I think, I from that video, it was probably one of my channels. So, I guess people are liking it. But I think people misunderstood what it really was about. And I think that's the problem. Everyone takes everything so literally. You know, the technique, the this, the that, the punching, this doesn't work, everything. You got to practice on the bag. Yes, practice on the bag. Yes, practice on the pads. Yes, practice in sparring. You have to develop those weight room exercises. And like, I said in the video, you don't want to do it like in the weight room. You should never do the exercise like you do a proper punch. And that's the first thing you told me.
Absolutely. Because muscle memory is a hell of a thing. And in every sport, including boxing, baseball, hockey, whatever sport you want, the top level, the movements are so precise and the muscle memory is so precise. Now, if you add something like a weight to it, that changes the angle, that changes the amount of force, that changes the way you do it, and that messes up the way you're coming at it. So you never want to be exact. But if you do it a little bit differently, you're working the same muscles, you're working the same kind of movement, but the same explosiveness, and you're training that area without actually messing up your muscle memory. The thing that used to drive me insane are people who said, "Oh, practice your kicking with ankle weights." Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of people still do it. It was crazy because Ferguson actually had ankle weights like up to the day before his fight. He was using ankle weights at the open workout.
Yeah, and people see these guys, and obviously Ferguson's amazing, and it works, and they're like, "Oh, well, he does it." Well, the reason it works for him is because he's a freak of nature. He can really do anything, and it'll still work. But it doesn't mean it's the best way to do it.
Okay, so tell people, I know, but people listening, why wouldn't you want to wear ankle weights?
Because now you're putting the weight at the bottom of the ankle, and now you're changing the way your hip has to move to actually get force into the kick. You're changing your moment of torque. When you kick, the hip has to move with the weight of your leg and create that force. The force comes from the hip and the turn and the explosiveness. Putting a weight on your ankle, that does really nothing. And I actually found this out studying baseball players. When they in the on-deck circle, they put weights on their bat and practice practice hitting, and then when they go in the batter's box, it supposedly makes the bat feel lighter and they're hitting easier. Apparently, it's all in your head. The bat feels lighter just because you had something heavier, but the amount of force that you generate and your bat speed stays exactly the same.
But couldn't it change? I would think it could change the timing. Say it does make you swing faster. It might hit at a different part of the bat. If you've been swinging the bat at the same rate to get these home runs, then all of a sudden it feels lighter, and then you might hit it at the end of the bat. No? Wouldn't it change where you play?
Have to move. It takes you a little more force to lift up the bat or your leg. So your leg is not going to, you're going to lose that preciseness because now you don't have the weights at the ankle that you're used to. So that again changes the weight at the end, and it changes the how much it takes to lift the leg and move it over. Again, precise movements.
Okay, now let's put it the other way. Put it with shadow boxing, because I use dumbbells to shadow box, but I will never use a pound dumbbell. I find 1 max 2 pounds. I won't go over 2 pounds with my dumbbell shadow boxing.
Yeah, and you use them to warm up, Joe. You use them to burn out. You're not using them to develop your punching speed.
No, you're doing it more for shoulder endurance, right?
Yeah, you're doing it.
You want to be able to do it
like 1% of the time. That's not going to affect. You're not doing it 90% of the time. Yeah. Yeah, but these people who comment are hilarious. Like you guys, you got the guy who's a world champ here, who's showing how to build punching power in a 2-minute video, and you got people like breaking it down. This is not how you do it. Yeah. Hey, man, you're sitting on your couch telling the guy how to build punching power.
You said it the best, and in the documentary we did, and those who haven't watched, it's called Fighting for Glory, the Joseph Valtellini story. And Costa says something, and you talk about the feather duster analogy. I mean that sticks to me every time I hear it.
Explosiveness?
Yeah, when you build explosiveness, right? You need strength with it. You can't just, not
you need to be strong to be explosive.
To be explosive, exactly. You
gotta have a strength foundation. I'll say it till the day that I die, because if you're weak and you're trying to get explosive, what are you exploding? There's no force times mass equals acceleration. I don't know if that's the exact equation, whatever. Somebody will correct me. But you need force and you need mass. So you need to be strong and you need to be able to express the strength quickly to create that explosiveness. Yeah. Because if you have force but you have no strength, then what do you hit? 0 times 1 is still 0. 0 times 2 is still 0. So you got to get strong and build your strength as a foundation, and then build your explosiveness and be able to express that strength quickly. And that's how you're going to get strong. That's how you're going to get explosive. That's how you're going to get better. And if you're a beginner, you got to do technique. I get these beginners coming to me. They're like, "Oh, I just started Muay Thai, or I just started I need to do 3 days a week strength." I'm like, "No, you need to learn how to how to do the sport before you get. There's nothing wrong with doing a couple of days.
Absolutely. Like you can do a million dumbbell presses, but if you don't know how to turn your body correctly to do a powerful hook, you're never. There's body mechanics to it, and that's what people don't understand. Yes, you need the bag work. Yes, you need the pad work, but these exercises are to build that strength. And what other people were saying, and I said it at the end of that video, you have to understand periodization. Like, I'm not going to do these more hypertrophy mass building exercises, a week before my fight. Or if I don't have the ability in my preparation phase. Like, me and you came out with that strength and conditioning article, the ebook there, and we
available on bazookasquad.com.
Exactly, bazookasquad.com. But the thing is, what people don't understand, you need that base. I can't just say, okay, it's lower body day, let's get into heavy squats. If your technique's off, if your form's off, you need that general preparation. Your joints, your ligaments, if they're not strong enough to handle the big load, that's how you hurt yourself in the weight room. I believe weight room, and you believe it too, weight room should help prevent injuries in the long run. Look at my career. I've been injury free still to this day because we've been able to steadily increase load in order to keep my body, my joints, and everything strong.
And we utilize rest.
Oh, that's the big thing. I was going to talk about that on another. We can go off on that. Let's save that for another episode, man.
All right, we'll save that for another.
That's forever, especially with MMA guys, man. It's crazy. Like, I'm dealing with one of my fighters. We'll just hit the one point though. He actually he's still under that philosophy that more is better, but instead he's
better.
Instead of doing 10 sessions a week, if he's doing 10 sessions a week, he's doing it at 60%. He can never do each session maximally to, improve optimally at the end of the day. So now
you get better when you rest. The body.
Exactly.
That you tear down your body when you train, and you get better when you rest. But that's another show. We'll talk about it.
But then again, I know. But the last point is the rebuttal to it is they'll say, well, you have a light day and you have a powerful day. But I still said light days, you're still putting that energy. You're still putting the strain on your nervous system. I feel you can do those reps in your head. You don't necessarily have to do it all the time or watch or study or have a good coach that will do it.
On your light day, though? How are you going to improve on your light day? What, you're just doing it for doing it? You got to tax your body to improve.
But doing it should happen out of camp. In camp, you don't need to be doing these light rolls as much. The learning has already happened. Now it's just preparing the body for war.
Yeah,
that's next.
We're talking about another time, Joe. But going back to your videos, they're great. But guys, you're not going to get a full program off a 3-minute video. It's just to get some ideas, go into it for your training. Part of an overall. You're not going to build your punching power watching a 2-minute video. It's part of an overall program. Things you can add to what you're currently doing. I always said, if you're at a high level and you want to compete, you need a coach for your training. Just like you need a coach for your Thai boxing, just like you need a coach for your jiu-jitsu. You cannot train yourself training. All the best athletes in the world all have coaches, so why wouldn't you? You're not better than them. You're not smarter than them. So always get a good coach who's actually trained people, who's not just taking Instagram pics of themselves saying that they did it. They actually have trained people. They come highly recommended. And those are the people that and invest in it. Don't go for it cheap. If this is going to be your career, if this is going to be your all-in hobby, do it and invest it. And just like you would invest in the rest of your training.
My big thing now, mobility, man. Jeez. I'm so freaking tight, Costa, that I find the stretching, the mobility, the rolling out. Now that I have the time to do it, I can see the huge benefit. So I'll probably come up with a little short video eventually on my little bit of warm up with what I use with the lacrosse ball and the roller.
I love mobility, Joe. I think it's very important. I don't think a lot of people do it enough, and including me, because lifting's more fun. But y'all got to be careful that your session doesn't become only mobility. It should be a part of your session.
Oh, absolutely. I usually don't do, and if it's my rest day, I can do an hour, but usually before I squat, it'll probably be I would say about a 15-minute rollout, maybe max, 10 minutes of mobility just to warm up my hips, loosen up. And it's been good. I find my squats better, my form's better. I'm able to get deeper. I found some good improvements so far with it.
You got to get the tendons going. You got to get everything nice. But one thing that people kind of mistake, tightness can be good. Hypermobility, not so good. Especially with an athlete, for your example, if you want to kick, You got to have that coil action, which is a little bit of tightness in the tendons is okay because you get that coil action. You don't want them too loose and floppy, or else you're not going to get that explosiveness. But again, a lot of that's a function of genetics, so you can't really get too mobile, and I wouldn't really worry about that with people.
So we released another video on lower body. I ended up going with, I know you told me to hit a trap bar for one. For the first exercise, but I was feeling good and I was squatting anyway, so I just recorded the squat.
I didn't watch it yet.
I know. So the 3 exercises I picked were squat. I picked a rear lunge and a glute ham raise. And I said if people don't have a glute ham raise, it's good to do the stability ball ham curls that we used to do a lot of. So those were the 3 that I ended up going with for this video. But again, the squat, and I think this is where I wanted for us when I do more videos. We'll talk about it before. And instead, the next time I do an upper body workout, we'll give different variations of different exercises you can do. So this way at the end, they can have a kind of a list of resources of, hey, look, Joe did on one day, he did dumbbell presses. The next week he did bench press. I just want to give different variations what they can do on their push, pull, and lower body. So I think that's my idea with where I want to go with those videos.
Yeah, the exercise isn't important. It's what you want to get
at
the
programming.
End. There's a billion exercises you can do as long as it's doing what you want. Go for it. You can do squats, trap bar down. I don't care what you do. Just as long as it does what you want to do. And again, have a reason for what you're doing. You know what? A lot of people trash. Let's take an example: barbell curls. Like, oh, don't want. I'm like, but if you can tell me, if I ask you why you're doing barbell curls and you give me a reason, okay, go ahead, do them.
Then do it.
Just have a reason for everything you're doing. There's not one way to do it, but you just don't do stuff because you saw it somewhere or for the sake of it. Do it.
Where else
you
are
have a reason?
Learn it? They don't know what the reason is. They just have seen it on a.
So have a good.
And they do it.
And again, if you're not doing this as your profession and you don't have the money for a coach, then download my ebook.
Ebooks, watch my channel too.
There you
got it.
Yeah.
But I guess So that's what I think the main thing we want to get out of it. It's just more of it's a base. It's a guideline. There's some different exercises. Know that you can do 3 different days. There's some exercises, but start slow, man. I've been doing strength and conditioning with you for how many years now? I got it.
It's been 11 years.
I was going to say at least 11, 12 years. Yeah. So, I mean, start slow. Yeah, I'm squatting over, 300 pounds in the video, but that's
a good thing for beginners.
A lot of years.
If you're just a regular person who hasn't trained in years, or never trained, get into it, start slow with like body weight stuff, and again, that's even more important that you start with a trainer that can show you the proper form on how to do it. You got to learn your form first or else you're going to injure yourself. You got to learn proper programming. So again, you wouldn't drive a car without taking driving lessons.
So break down quickly then what you put in that ebook level 1.
It's just getting used to the proper form. So things like goblet squats onto a box, teaching you it gives you proper squatting technique to progression onto it. But again, if you're a real true beginner and you get the book, that's great. But do it with like a trainer or someone else who knows and can watch you and supervise. Because again, I'll tell you, why do we go to doctors for our body? Why do we go to mechanics for our cars, but we try and train ourselves? That's crazy. I was lucky when I was coming up. When I was a kid, I had people in the gym showing me what to do. I was curious. I got books. But
you're also a study. You've studied like crazy.
I've studied all my life.
People don't even want to look. People don't even.
Since I was 13 years old. I'm 38 now, and I never stopped. And do
you know how many fighters still don't know how to cut weight, and they don't even understand because they can't Google. If you don't know something, people Google it, learn, research, get different.
Are we going to talk about cutting weight, Joel?
Yeah, that's another time we will.
I got opinions.
Yeah, I know you do.
Have we covered these? And it's been so long. Have we covered these on any of our podcasts? Probably, but what do you got?
Probably, but we have Danny from DB Vault.
What's up, everyone? What's up?
Cool.
Oh,
Danny's on. We got Danny to go on and just look at some of the questions from the strength video.
Oh, we got some.
We want
ones.
some because I know Costa gets heated up. Costa can get heated up on some of these negative ones, so I want to hear the best negative one too.
Okay, this one's pretty long, so just let me finish this one. Okay, this comes from a guy named Tino Casandi. He says,
cool name.
That's pretty good name.
For power, you must lift fast, so you must lift 30 to 50% of your 1 rep max. If the weights are not snapping up fast, you're developing force which is not conductive to kickboxing. That's more so for wrestling. Again, never learn quote-unquote training from a steroid user with no nuts. If you want to get strong like a steroid user, you learn to shower ice cold, easy as taking a piss. I don't know what that means. That makes your balls bigger, not smaller, and eventually shut down forever. Close to 100% of you won't do it, LOL. Dumbbell press develops pushing force, not punching power. If you want to punch hard, there's one exercise, power clean. There's other variations, of course. Any Olympic weightlifting techniques will help you build punching power. When you're training force, you're pushing harder, not punching harder. If you have to do one or two, it's power clean and power snatch. That's it. That's all. Big caps, never take advice from a nutless steroid user like this fag.
Wow, I like it.
Yo,
one, it's a compliment because
it's a compliment. It's a compliment because that means you're jacked.
I've actually been doing I do a little bit more bodybuilding. I don't have to make weight anymore, so I do got a little bit more pump to it for sure. But
I wish they called me a steroid user.
I know. I was like, damn, bro, the biceps are looking good.
All right.
But he did have some value to his point. Like,
no, he was terrible, Joe. He read one article. He read one article on the internet, and now he's an expert. He's just like all these guys on the internet. Hey, guys, I read one article on like Elite FTS, which is a great site. But I read one article. Look at me, I'm an expert, so I'm going to tell you what to do. I've never trained anyone. I sit here. First of all, sport-specific training is explosiveness from the hip. That's why an athlete is an athlete because they are able to explode from the hip and in their body. So they're usually good at every sport, most sports. And then that's how we build. And
muscle fiber type is depends too, right? Some people are genetically predisposed to have more
genetics.
type
So your
1
body
fiber.
doesn't care if you're kickboxing or wrestling when you're doing weightlifting, you know?
Go, Danny, next. What do we got?
All right, all the positive ones are pretty positive. Like you look jacked. You're probably 205 now.
I'm actually 195 max. I think today I woke up at 194. I actually lost weight, people. Just give it.
That's it?
It was, man. Yeah, I came low, man. I've cut a lot of fat. Another day we'll talk about my diet. I know that's a little touchy subject with you.
But we have a guy
another
here.
Day.
We have a guy here who makes, I guess, a point. He says, bullocks, you either have power or not. This does not work.
Okay, so Joe, you either have power or you don't. So let's just not weightlift and just sit in. So Joe, if you sat on
don't even try to get it.
No, Joe. Okay, so let's say you have natural power. I'll 100% agree. And the people who are the best have natural power. So if you, since you are one of the people who have power, if you sat on the couch and just ate Cheetos are lit all the time and never trained. That's it. So you shouldn't bother training. So that hasn't helped you at all. And then a guy who doesn't have power, let's say a guy like me, I'm not a natural guy. I should just not bother going to the gym and developing power. So this
should never do anything.
Never do anything. So all these millions of studies that's shown, and the work that Verko Hansky and Mel Siff and Louis Simmons have done on power development, that's lies.
Well, I agree that there is a genetic component, but you have to still be able to train it. Like, yes, Mike Tyson is going to hit harder than most people. Absolutely.
You have genetics. You have guys.
You have genetics, absolutely. But Mike Tyson could probably hit harder if he had a good strength and conditioning program. Look at Anthony Joshua. He's going to be going down as one of the best heavyweight boxers in the world. Good power, good speed. He trains like a football player. He does all of his squats. He does his bench presses. He does his, everything that we do, he's been doing. So that's why he's such a successful athlete.
Tyson trained with weights. So a lot of people say he didn't, but he absolutely did.
Well, for his legs and the power, and yes,
Tyson, I think these guys are all training power. Come on, man. These guys, people take things to the extreme. Yes, genetics absolutely matter. Genetics are 100% of the equation as to whether you will be a pro athlete or not. If you do not have the genetics, I'm sorry, you can train as much as you want. You can have all the science on your side. You can be an animal, but you will never be a pro or a high-level pro. But you can, if you train, become to the best of your ability and be the best of who you are and hit your genetic potential. You will never hit your genetic potential if you do not train. And if you are a pro, if you are at the best, you can only get better if you train. So, like, why is everybody got to take everything to extremes all the time?
Like, they just have to feel like they have to say something. They feel like they got to say something.
What was this guy's name?
I don't know. We think it's Tino.
This guy's name is Skitman Pants. I don't think that's his real name.
Classic Skitman.
Let's go to the next one. Danny, what do we got?
This one's a little bit more neutral. I heard isometrics also help with punching power. So what's your take on that?
I don't know. It's fine. It's not. It's isometrics. There has been some studies done with isometrics. Bob Hoffman back in the day was huge with isometrics. If you look at your power racks, they have pins all the way down every 2 centimeters, or 1 centimeter, however many. And people are like, "Oh, that's just to put the safety rack or your pins for your barbells on it." No, what that actually originally was designed for was you would put a bar on each level and push against it and do an isometric hold for 30 seconds or 2 minutes. And then you would change the levels and go up at each time. That was Bob Hoffman was big on them.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's why that's the original design of those from York Barbell.
Not safety. They're not safety.
Yeah, it's probably just a side effect of it. It's multi-use, but that was what they originally were made for. But isometric as part of a program, yeah, we did. I remember I experimented with that with you in a bit back in the day, Joe. We didn't work. It wasn't great for us, but I mean, for others, there could definitely be some value for it.
Absolutely,
it does have time under tension and whatnot as part of a program. Yeah, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, but I mean, when you talk more power, though, it's more of that acceleration we're looking for, right?
Yeah,
more than
but
just
again, you look at it. It can help you at sticking points. There's
there's a use for it if you need it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's use for it.
But like, what else people don't understand with is the negative is the eccentric versus concentric, right? So people don't understand that the negative is actually what's building and tearing the muscle fibers down more than anything.
That's what makes you
sore. So when you do a bicep curl, it's not the curl up, it's the going down that actually is tearing the muscle fiber down. So that's where those holds could really capitalize on. And doing like a negative bench is ridiculous. Slowing your squat. If you've ever done a slow squat, it's brutal.
Power lifters love isometrics. I mean, for sticking points.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
The other thing I want to do a video on is core work. I feel like a lot of people love the traditional sit-up a lot. So that's just a reminder.
That's ab work, not core work, Joe. Define core work.
Well, core work can come in many different ways. And that's why I wanted to kind of show our philosophy on core work, because people would probably ask me every day how many sit-ups and leg raises, and
core is a buzzword, Joe. Core is a buzzword. Everyone's like, I want to work. What does anyone know what core means? They're like, oh, I'm like, squat. You know, if you can squat, you got to have a strong core. Which is like,
deadlift. Yeah. Look at the deadlift, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's there's all those work your core. There's ab work works your core. Back work works your core. It's not, there's not just exercises that work your core. It's, you got to work your different movements. Again, it's this thing out there where everybody's an expert.
I forgot I'm not allowed to bring little topics to you, because then you go off and then it goes off and we forget what we're.
I would like to talk to Tino about core work.
See, I find with you, we have to. I forgot I can't give little hints to you. I got to save it. I got to write it down and then bring it up next show.
I got. How long have we been going here?
It's 40 minutes, man.
Oh my God! So many people have tuned out by now.
Way out.
All right,
let's finish it up. What do we finish on? I think one key thing I want you to hit on from the video so far, and there's going to be our pull video coming out later this week, but just your opinion on it, because in both videos I do our big lift and then I talk about unilateral lifts. So I just want you to hit on that for everybody. Yeah,
no, you start with your strength, explosive, as we always did, and then you got to move. Because what happens is one side is naturally stronger than the other. In everybody, we're not symmetrical. So you want to work them individually after to really, try and even them out and develop them singularly as part of an overall program and mix it out. But don't neglect working both sides at once with your big compound lifts, because again, that's when you're using your whole nervous system. That's when you're really working the movements. That's when you're really teaching your explosiveness. Again, so they all have parts in their in your program. So use everything, guys. Use everything. It's not you have a toolbox. You don't have a hammer can't build a house, but a hammer with a million other things can build a house. Why do you limit yourself to kettlebells? Or why do you
I was just gonna say
but like everybody limits themselves because it's cool to like TRX machine. Use everything. You got it. Like
do a squat, then do TRX, and then do some kettlebell swings. It's okay.
We live in a great time where we have everything at our disposal. We have the internet. We have all of the human knowledge and civilization. We have people who know these things. We have all this equipment. Like use it all. Don't just become a fanatic about one thing.
People just need to back something and then tell people they're wrong if they don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like people have a tendency to want to back something, like Conor McGregor fans, and they just get so angry about it. Like Tino.
Like religion, like politics, like everything.
Yeah, Tino, he gets fired up.
Tino, yeah, you got to bullocks.
Tino, I love you, buddy, but you're crazy. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, bullocks.
Oh, bullocks guy's all right.
He's been okay.
Yeah.
That's it. I think we're good, Cost. So you want to do, what do you have, something good?
I don't know. I'm good. Just training, guys. Starting off-season baseball programs this winter. Got some draft picks, got some minor league players, got some major league players. Going to be crazy if anyone's out in Toronto. Hit me up. We got, that's pretty much it. Got to be doing these things.
Nice outro, bro. I like the plugs. I like how you dropped that you got your stuff.
Yeah.
I think the next video is going to be our pull video. You have 3 exercises you want to give people so they can look forward to it?
No, man. Let's surprise them in the video.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, Cost.
All right, later, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you in a bit, buddy.